the paradise that feels out of reach. What happens when one of the world's wealthiest nations becomes one of the hardest places for its own citizens to build wealth? Singapore presents this stunning contradiction. With a GDP per capita exceeding $90,000, this city-state ranks among the planet's most prosperous economies, hosting the regional headquarters of tech giants and financial powerhouses. Yet beneath the gleaming skyline lies a troubling reality. Recent national surveys revealed that over half of Singaporeans under 35 worry they will never afford a home or achieve financial independence. What they once called the Singapore dream now feels like an impossible aspiration, reserved for those with capital, connections, or foreign credentials rather than hard work alone. From colony to sovereign nation. To understand this paradox, we must journey back to August 9, 1965. On that historic day, Prime Minister Lee Kuan Yew sat before television cameras, tears streaming down his face as he announced Singapore's unexpected separation from Malaysia. For millions watching, it felt surreal. Their tiny island had been expelled from what was supposed to be their political and economic future. The split came after 2 turbulent years of ethnic tensions and political conflicts. Lee's vision of a Malaysian Malaysia, where all citizens enjoyed equal rights regardless of ethnicity, clashed with federal policies favoring Malay interests. Race riots erupted in 1964, leaving dozens dead and deepening mistrust. By mid-1965, Malaysia's leadership concluded that keeping Singapore posed a greater risk, a nation built on calculated risk. Imagine inheriting a country with no natural resources, no military, and an unemployment rate near 9%. This was Singapore's reality in 1965. When per capita income hovered around $500 comparable to the poorest economies, Lee Kuan Yew faced an existential choice: build with homegrown capacity alone, or gamble everything on opening Singapore to global partnerships. Lee chose the bold path. His government courted multinational corporations with ruthless efficiency, transparent taxation, zero tolerance for corruption, fast permits, and strong legal protections. Foreign engineers, scientists, and bankers arrived to train locals and establish operations. Within a generation, the gamble paid off spectacularly. Singapore transformed from struggling trading post to economic powerhouse, with families moving from slums into modern high-rise housing. The housing crisis nobody expected. Housing defines the Singapore dream, and here the contradiction becomes painfully clear. Since the 1960s, the Housing Development Board has built public apartments for everyday families, with around 80% of residents now living in these government-built units. Back then, a 2-bedroom flat costs less than 8,000 Singapore dollars. Today, that same flat commands over $650,000, nearly $500,000 US for public housing. The system operates on 2 tracks: new build-to-order flats and the resale market. When construction delays stretch to 5 or 6 years, families cannot wait. They turn to resale units where government subsidies disappear and market forces reign supreme. Young couples, investors, and upgrading families all compete, pushing prices to record highs. Over $1,200 million changed hands in resale transactions during just the first 9 months of 2025. The cost of living squeeze. Housing represents just the first financial burden. Consider a typical young professional couple, each earning $4,000 to $5,000 monthly with university degrees. Their $600,000 flat requires a 10% down payment, then mortgage payments approaching $3,000 every month for 25 to 30 years. That single obligation consumes a massive portion of their combined income, leaving little room for economic shocks. Singapore's geography amplifies these pressures. As a resource-poor island, nearly everything must be imported. A dozen eggs costs $4.50, double or triple the price across the border in Malaysia. Global inflation from post-pandemic stimulus packages hits especially hard here. The culture of playing safe. Financial pressures alone do not explain why Singaporeans avoid risk. A deeper cultural force operates here, captured in the Singlish expression kiosah, literally meaning afraid to lose. This mindset pervades every aspect of life, from education to career choices. Children face intense academic sorting from age 12 through the primary school leaving examination, which can determine their entire trajectory. Mistakes feel catastrophic because second chances seem non-existent. National service adds another layer. Almost every male citizen serves to full-time years in military, police, or civil defense right after finishing school. While this builds discipline and national identity, it also conditions young men toward hierarchy, obedience, and rule-following. They enter adulthood 2 years behind international peers, having spent formative years in an environment where questioning authority brings consequences. Innovation requires the opposite mindset: curiosity, experimentation, and acceptance of failure. When opportunity favors outsiders, the Singaporean government has invested over $25 billion in recent years to build a thriving startup ecosystem through grants, co-investment schemes, and innovation funds. Programs like Startup SG Founder offer $50,000 to aspiring entrepreneurs. On paper, this creates tremendous opportunity. In reality, local founders face a cruel irony. They compete against international entrepreneurs who view Singapore as their launchpad, unburdened by cultural conditioning toward risk aversion. One local founder explained the challenge candidly. $50,000 sounds significant until you compare it against stable employment income. With startup failure rates near 95%, can you really abandon job security, especially when mortgage payments demand $3,000 monthly? Add the fear of never re-entering the workforce after failure, and the opportunity cost becomes overwhelming. Meanwhile, foreign founders bring different expectations, different safety nets, and often greater confidence in self-presentation. A thriving ecosystem with hidden barriers. The numbers tell a compelling story of success. Singapore attracted over $12 billion in venture capital funding in 2024, with projections for 2025 remaining strong. The city-state now hosts 23 unicorns spanning fintech, artificial intelligence, and e-commerce, cementing its position as Southeast Asia's premier startup hub. Budget 2025 introduced transformative initiatives including a $200 million long-term investment fund and a $150 million enterprise compute initiative to accelerate AI adoption. Yet beneath these impressive statistics lies persistent inequality. Nearly 60% of startups survive 5 years here compared to regional averages. But over 1/5 of failures cite operating costs and talent expenses as primary reasons. Median monthly wages grew 6.5% in 2025, creating intense pressure on startups competing with multinational corporations for talent. 7 out of 10 Singapore startups now combine local hires with remote workers to manage costs, while government grants like Startup SG Founder provide $20,000 to $50,000 in seed funding. Local founders still struggle against well-capitalized international competitors who arrive with existing networks, funding sources, and confidence that years of kiasu conditioning have suppressed in many locals. The uncertain future ahead. Singapore now confronts troubling demographic trends. The total fertility rate has plunged to 0.970, among the lowest globally. This signals future labor shortages, shrinking tax revenue, and heavier burdens on coming generations. Simultaneously, young Singaporeans increasingly seek opportunities abroad, recognizing limited upward mobility at home. The nation that Lee Kuan Yew built through calculated risk-taking now struggles to cultivate homegrown risk-takers. The government can continue importing foreign talent and offering more grants, yet something fundamental may be missing: space for citizens to fail, learn, and try again without being written off. Policy reforms have introduced subject-based banding and more educational bridges, but parental anxiety persists. Until Singapore celebrates those who dare to experiment even when outcomes remain uncertain, the paradox deepens. Success increasingly belongs to those arriving with capital rather than those born into the system. Your voice matters. Only Singaporeans themselves can ultimately decide whether their nation remains a protective bubble or reinvents itself as a place embracing bold ideas once again. The people who grew up with Singapore understand its promise and potential far better than any outsider ever could. Their insights, experiences, and perspectives hold the key to understanding what comes next in this extraordinary experiment of nation-building. If this exploration resonated with you, please subscribe to the World Documentaries and share this video with others seeking authentic insights beyond mainstream headlines. We aim to educate global audiences about what is genuinely happening across different societies, and your engagement helps us continue this mission. Share your thoughts and personal experiences in the comments below. Your voice adds depth that no amount of research can replace. Thank you for joining us on this journey of discovery and understanding.